If you were listening to this, there is something I need to ask you first. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never thought to check behind them? Because this story is not about love that ends suddenly. It's about love that was slowly replaced while the owner was still alive. This story begins in Lunara City, a modern African city filled with glass buildings, traffic noise, ambition, and long nights. In one of those high-rise apartments lived Amara. Amara was not weak, she was disciplined. She worked a full-time job, paid bills on time, cooked dinner even when she was tired, and believed marriage did not need constant supervision. Her husband, Jabari, worked in logistics. Long hours, late meetings, business trips. Amara never checked his phone, never tracked his location. Trust is cheaper than suspicion, she once told her friend. What she didn't know was that someone else had been tracking Jabari with precision. Her name was Zola. Zola worked in the same city, same restaurants, same gyms, same social circles. She didn't believe in fate. She believed in positioning. She knew when Jabari arrived at work. She knew which coffee he ordered. She knew which days his wedding ring stayed loose on his finger. And one evening, as Jabari walked toward his car, Zola watched from across the street. She didn't wave. She didn't call his name. She smiled. Not at him, at the life she had already imagined stealing. From the outside, Amara's marriage looked boring. No drama, no public fights, no emotional posts online. And in the city, boring is often mistaken for broken. Zola noticed this. "You never complain about your wife," she told Jabari one night over drinks. "That must mean she doesn't care." The idea confused him. At home, Amara waited with food, asked about his day, listened quietly. But Zola asked questions that sounded like concern. "Are you happy? Do you feel seen? Does she still excite you?" Jabari didn't answer right away, because no one had ever asked him those questions before. In Lunara City, attention is currency, and Zola was paying generously. Amara felt the shift slowly. Text messages became shorter, eye contact weaker, laughs delayed. She blamed work stress. She always did. Zola didn't rush. Cities reward patience. She followed Amara on social media, watched her routines, noticed how simple her life looked. "She thinks peace is enough," Zola said to herself. One afternoon, Zola walked into the same cafe Amara frequented. She ordered the same drink, not by accident. They exchanged smiles. Normal, polite. That night, Zola stood in front of her mirror and practiced calm. The calm Amara wore naturally. "I can be her," Zola whispered, "but better." Jabari noticed changes. Zola dressed more elegantly, spoke more gently, listened longer. "She reminds me of my wife," he said once. Zola smiled. That was the goal. Zola didn't attack Amara. She befriended her. A casual meeting, a shared laugh, a coffee invitation. Amara welcomed her, because cities teach women to be independent, but not suspicious. Zola complimented her strength, praised her discipline, listened when Amara spoke about marriage struggles. Every word became information. Later that night, Zola met Jabari. "She hides her feelings well," Zola said, "but sometimes women do that when they are already emotionally tired." Jabari stayed quiet. Doubt doesn't need proof. It only needs repetition. The first argument didn't sound like one. It sounded like disappointment. "You don't ask about my life anymore," Jabari said casually. Amara looked surprised. "I thought giving space was respect." He didn't respond, and in that silence, Amara felt something unfamiliar. Competition. Not with another woman, but with a version of herself she never knew she needed to become. That night, Zola sat alone in her apartment. She didn't celebrate. She simply said, "Now I am inside." Lunara City never sleeps, they say. The streets glow with neon signs, traffic honks, and the occasional laughter spilling from late-night cafes. And in this city, privacy is rare. Amara had finished her day. Emails answered, laundry done, dinner set on the sleek wooden table. Jabari was late again. Meetings, traffic, another excuse. She tried not to worry. She had learned that patience keeps the heart steady. But then she noticed something strange. A shadow lingered by her front door. A shadow that shouldn't have been there. She brushed it off. Maybe it was a delivery person, maybe a neighbor. But the feeling, that tightness in her chest, told her it was more. Meanwhile, Zola had just left her own apartment. She had taken the back streets, observed Amara's routine, and noticed her tired eyes as she set the table. "This life," Zola whispered to herself, "is slower than mine. I can accelerate it." That night, as Amara prepared for bed, she glanced at her living room window. Across the street, a figure leaned casually against the railing of the neighboring building. She didn't recognize the person, but the gaze, the intensity, it pierced straight through her calm. Jabari came home late. He kissed her forehead, noticed nothing, went straight to his study. And Amara wondered, who had been standing there, watching? Unseen, Zola smiled. She didn't move a muscle, didn't speak, just watched. And sometimes she whispered Amara's name, softly, as if practicing it on her lips before taking it for herself. The next morning, Amara arrived at her office. Tall glass skyscraper, the hum of printers, people walking with urgency. She tried to focus, but Jabari's words from the night before lingered. "You don't ask about my life anymore." Why did it matter now? She had always asked. She had always listened. Her phone vibrated. A message from Zola. "Good morning. I hope you slept well. Did Jabari tell you about the project meeting yesterday? So stressful." Amara froze. Why would Zola know? She shrugged it off, maybe coincidence. But all day the unease grew. Jabari arrived home late again. He seemed distracted, not angry, not happy, just somewhere else. Amara tried conversation. Jabari half smiled, half listened. And Zola, she appeared in subtle ways. Lunch at the same cafe, brief smiles when passing the office, messages that seemed casual but hit with precision. By the end of the day, Amara felt a small pang in her chest. The kind that tells you something is shifting, even when nothing seems to have changed. Zola began taking small risks. A coffee shop across from Amara's building, a jog in the park where Amara usually walked. She wasn't reckless, she was strategic. She documented everything. The tone of Amara's voice when talking to Jabari, the way her hair fell over her shoulder when she laughed, the way she frowned while typing emails. Every detail became a puzzle piece. At night, Zola would replay Jabari's laughter in her mind, compare it with the one she had memorized in cafes, restaurants, and meetings. Her lips would curl into a quiet smile. She was learning him, learning the marriage without opening a single door. Meanwhile, Amara felt it. She couldn't explain it, the subtle sense that someone else had entered their life, moving pieces around behind a mask of civility. Jabari remained oblivious. He had noticed nothing, and that made it even more dangerous. Amara started noticing changes. Dinner conversations felt lighter, sometimes too light. She tried asking Jabari about his day. He'd answer with a distracted half-smile, check his phone occasionally. And that's when the texts began. Not from Zola this time, from unknown numbers. Casual, friendly, innocent, just enough to make Jabari pause, just enough to plant a seed. Amara didn't read them. She wanted to trust, but trust, she learned, can be tested without anyone raising a hand. Zola, in the meantime, moved closer. She wasn't confrontational. She wasn't shouting or demanding. She was a whisper in the background of their lives. And whispers, in the heart of a city that never sleeps, are louder than you think.
One evening, Amara noticed Jabari smiling at his phone. He had been distant all day. He wasn't angry or sad, just different. "Who are you texting?" she asked lightly. Jabari hesitated. "Just a friend," he said too quickly. Amara let it go, for now. She didn't want to create tension. But the uneasy feeling lingered. In the quiet hum of their apartment, she sensed the invisible presence. Someone watching, someone planning, someone who had already memorized their lives better than they knew themselves. Across the city, Zola leaned back in her chair. Her fingers tapped lightly on the screen. Another message sent, another smile memorized. She had finally found the rhythm of their lives, and she intended to keep the beat, even if it meant rewriting it entirely.
Amara noticed subtle changes in her life. Emails were delayed, meetings postponed. Jabari seemed distracted, thoughtful, sometimes smiling at nothing. It didn't take long for her intuition to notice the pattern. Someone was entering their lives quietly, learning, observing, waiting. One evening, while preparing dinner, she found a business card slipped under her apartment door. Not hers, not Jabari's. It read simply, "For a better life, know the choices you are making." Amara didn't panic. Instead, she felt the first spark of realization. She called her friend Naya, who worked in cybersecurity. "I think someone is following Jabari," she said calmly. Naya looked concerned, but also impressed. "This is modern stalking," she said, "and it's calculated. Someone knows exactly what they're doing." Amara understood something crucial. She had been patient, she had trusted, but patience alone would no longer protect what mattered most. Over the next few days, Amara quietly collected evidence. She checked security footage at their building, noticed Zola loitering outside, observed her in cafes, gyms, and social events. Every small smile, every small greeting, every casual message to Jabari became a pattern. She didn't confront Jabari. She didn't yell. She collected facts. Meanwhile, Zola continued to infiltrate their lives subtly. She sent gifts, offered to help with tasks, complimented Amara's cooking, all with a polished, rehearsed smile. And Jabari, still oblivious, began to feel guilt without realizing why. Amara whispered to herself one night, "If you want control, you must understand the game first." The rules of engagement had changed, and she was ready to play. Amara decided it was time to reclaim her life, not with anger, but with strategy. She started leaving subtle hints for Jabari, texts reminding him of shared memories, photos of trips only they had taken, small details about their life that only Amara could provide. Meanwhile, she allowed Zola to overreach. Invitations to lunches, casual visits to the apartment lobby. She let Zola think she was friendly. Zola didn't notice the careful watch. She thought she was winning. But in reality, Amara had started to control the narrative. And in this city, narratives shape everything. The day came when Jabari received an unexpected message. "Your choices are being noticed. Some things cannot be hidden." He looked at Amara, who simply smiled. Calm, confident, unwavering. Zola walked into the apartment that evening. She had a plan, or so she thought. Amara welcomed her politely, shared a meal, listened attentively. But all the while, Jabari's phone, quietly recording Zola's confession, captured her rehearsed compliments, her disguised ambition, and her subtle attempts to manipulate him. Zola didn't realize she had stepped into Amara's trap. By the time she left, the evidence was irrefutable, not just for Jabari, but for anyone who might doubt Amara's instincts. In the days that followed, Amara and Jabari rebuilt their connection. No grand gestures, no dramatic apologies, only presence, only attention, only recognition of what they had almost lost. Amara started mentoring women in the city about self-respect, boundaries, and modern relationships. Jabari began noticing details again: her laughter, her eyes, her care. And Zola? She faded from their lives quietly, a lesson in subtlety and ambition gone too far. Amara realized that revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet, measured, and most importantly, effective. Lunara City continued its hum, neon lights flickering, traffic weaving stories of ambition and desire. Amara walked through it, not afraid, not suspicious. She had faced what could have broken her life, and she had turned it around. The lesson was simple. Trust is precious, but awareness is essential. Patience is a strength, but strategy preserves it. Ambition without ethics can destroy, even in a world that celebrates boldness. Amara smiled. She had not needed to fight with anger. She had only needed to know the game. And in that city, understanding the game was everything. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe the channel Tales with African Mamdani and like the video to watch more entertaining stories.